What do you find at the end of Russia, where the Pacific turns to ice? At first, Russia here feels frozen in time, no hint of spring. But in Vladivostok, there are signs that something is changing. Last month, thousands here risked arrest to protest in support of jailed opposition leader Alexei Navalny. There were rallies across Russia, but there is no political thaw. The Kremlin calls the protests illegal, and it's cracking down. Blogger Gennady Shulga had live-streamed one of the protests. A few days ago, police raided his flat and pinned him to the floor. The police video shows Gennady's head over the dog bowl.
This show of force was meant to scare me and my wife. Now the authorities are using that video to scare others by showing what happens to people who tell the truth.
Scientist Anton Chicherov, who's working on new cancer treatments, took part in the Vladivostok protests. He too has been targeted by the police.
They broke into my apartments, hold me laying on the floor like some criminal, and it was real humiliating and infuriating.
This isn't just happening here in the Russian Far East. In recent days, there have been reports of police raids and searches across the country, a sign of just how determined the authorities are to crush the protest movement. In Moscow, Alexei Navalny was back in the dock, accused of defaming a World War II veteran. This month, he'd already been sentenced to 2.5 years in prison in a fraud case, widely seen as politically motivated. The police raids on protesters is an attempt to cut Mr. Navalny's support base by spreading fear.
It will send chilling waves across everybody else who is in their early 20s, idealistic, wants to work for Team Navalny. A lot of people will be scared. A lot of parents will insert a lot of pressure on their kids to not join the movement.
There's something else the Kremlin is doing to try to undermine public support for protests. It's telling Russians through the state media that Mr. Navalny is an agent of the West, and some people are believing it. He's carrying out the West's instructions, Galina says. We all know it's the West pulling Navalny's strings, Yulia tells me. And as for Navalny being poisoned, he probably poisoned himself. Where is this taking Russia? With blame the West, the official narrative, there's little chance of a thaw in relations with America and Europe. Russia is facing the prospect of growing isolation. Steve Rosenberg, BBC News, Vladivostok.